reminds me of that song. It's like, ooh wee.
What is that?
I don't fucking know.
Well, anyways, that was my ghost impression of a ghost. Hi, guys. This is a tale of two dead girls, and it is Halloween.
Halloween 2020.
Halloween. We made it to Halloween, and we're still in a pandemic, and trick or treating is canceled. Actually, is trick or treating canceled over there?
Utah is kind of just going with the whole fuck it method.
So no one gives a shit.
Considering that we go up like 1,000+ cases a day and
Oh
that
my
we went up
god.
as many cases in one day as the entire country of Germany, I would say
Jesus.
that trick-or-treating is probably not canceled here.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah, it's fucked.
Wow.
It's
Well,
fucked.
anyways, I'm Kayla. That's Kale.
Yeah, I'm
Hello.
Gail. And this is our Halloween episode, and we're so excited.
Yeah.
We've been putting out these like spooky stories to listen to in the dark, and we've had a lot of people listening, so we definitely appreciate it.
Yes,
And
thank you.
I'm just excited to talk in a normal voice because that shit's fucking hard.
Oh
It's
yeah.
fun, but god damn,
Yes.
it's hard to stay in character.
Yeah, for sure. I don't really remember what episode this is. Is it 26?
Good question. Let me
I think
check.
it's 26.
This is us every time. What
Yeah,
episode are
always
we?
forgetting. Here we go. I can check. I got it. It's loading. It's loading.
It
It's
is 26.
Okay, cool.
You're right.
Um so Kale is going first today, and we got some Halloween themed ish, no, yeah, themed stories for you today. Not really themed, but like it all
Mine's like
everything.
happened on Halloween. Well,
Yeah,
Halloween
well,
Eve.
mine happened on Halloween, so
Ooh.
yeah, so I guess we'll just get into it.
Okay. So my story today is about the murder of Martha Moxley. So Martha Moxley was a 15-year-old girl living in Greenwich, Connecticut. Her and her family moved there from San Francisco when she was 14. Greenwich. Okay, so the fucking name of the town is like Greenwich, which to me is like Greenwich. But when I was listening to people talk about it in video, they were saying Greenwich and they lived there. So I'm like, okay, well,
Not Greenwich.
strange, but okay. So if I accidentally say it wrong, I'm sorry. But Greenwich is the type of small town where crime is very low. Martha was athletic and loved to draw. She was popular, and everybody described her as being bubbly and confident. On October 30th, 1975, it was Mischief Night. So, this was a tradition by the kids and teenagers that on the night before Halloween, they would pull pranks like egg houses, toilet paper houses, ding dong ditch, you name it. So, this was like a tradition to the local kids there. Martha and her brother John decided to go out with their friends and pull some pranks, but they separated into their own friend groups once they left the house. Martha and John's mother, Dorothy, was home all night waiting, and when John came home without Martha, Dorothy was concerned and she asked John where Martha was. John said that he didn't know because they had split up. Dorothy stayed up waiting for Martha until around 2 or 3 a.m., and when she still wasn't home, Dorothy became increasingly worried. She woke up her son John and told him to go drive around to see if he could find her. Because, like I said, this was a very small town, so she knew that it wouldn't take very long for him to just, drive around quickly, see if he could find her. There were lots of kids walking around, so he just drove around to see if he could find her, but he wasn't able to see her, and so their mother decided to call the police around 3:30. When the police arrived at their house, they searched the backyard and the home, but they didn't find anything. And they just did like pretty much a brief sweep because they were like, oh, it's mischief night. She's probably just out. She's pulling a prank. Maybe she like got drunk or something. But Dorothy was pretty suspicious of it. She didn't think that Martha was just running away or like was just being a bad kid because she really wasn't a bad kid. Like she was very close to her family. She never did anything out of the ordinary, and she always
Hmm.
came home when she said she would. So Dorothy called around all of the neighbors, and one neighbor said that she heard that Martha was at the Skakel house. So,
Skakel.
Yeah, so the Skakels were a well known family in the area because they were related to the Kennedys.
Oh wow,
So,
like the president?
yeah, so Rushton
Oh,
Skakel was the brother of Ethel Skakel, who was married to John F. Kennedy.
wow.
Yeah, so they were very well known, and they were also very well known to be basically that they got away with a lot of shit because, you know, they were they were like related to someone super famous and they were really really fucking rich. Um Also, I wanted to point out that this was in a gated community. So, this is where houses are like gated and you have to go through like a little guard thing to enter. Do you know what that is?
A guard? Wait, is it
Yeah.
like where they sit inside and there's like a I think I
And
know what you're talking about.
yeah, and then there's like a big gate and they have to like scan
Let
a
you in.
card or have a
Oh yeah,
code
yeah.
to get in. Yeah, so it was a
Yeah.
gated community. The neighbor claimed that she saw Martha with two of the Skakel boys, Tommy and Michael. With Greenwich being such a small town, word of Martha being missing spread pretty quickly, and people all over the town began searching for Martha. One neighbor named Sheila McGuire came to Dorothy's house to search and was walking around the backyard, and she found Martha Moxley's body underneath a pine tree,
Oh my god.
right in her backyard, pretty much.
Oh my
Um,
god.
Sheila ran into the house and claimed that she believed that she found Martha's body. So another family friend went with Sheila to the body and confirmed that it was her. They called the police immediately, and when the police arrived at the scene, they said that it was so bloody and so brutal that they could not even tell what color Martha's blonde hair was.
Oh my gosh.
So she was found with her pants down and her underwear, and there was a bloody like handprint on her thigh.
Oh no.
So they thought that she had been sexually assaulted. Um, and there was also a golf club nearby, and it had blood on it. And so basically, they concluded that she was beaten to death with the handle end of the golf club. So with a golf club, like there's a padded part at the top where your hands go, but that part was missing. So pretty much they just like stabbed her with it
Mhm.
and beat her with it. So
My god.
word again spread really fast, and the entire town was in fear. The police in Greenwich hadn't had to deal with a murder in over 30 years, and so they were extremely unprepared on how to handle the situation properly, and so was the medical examiner. So the medical examiner was unable to figure out the exact time of death, but said that it had happened between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. After interviewing Martha's friends, the police were able to put together what they believe is the timeline. So Martha left her house for mischief night around 6:30 p.m. She was with two of her friends and they decided to go to the Skakel house where they were hanging out with Tommy. And his brother Michael showed up a little bit later. So all five kids were hanging out in a car in the driveway and they were just listening to music. But the friends did claim that there was noticeable tension between Tommy and Michael and that it was because both of the boys had a crush on Martha. So
Mm.
Tommy was a little bit more outward about his crush on Martha, and Martha had even written about him in her diary saying that Tommy liked her. And Tommy also kept trying to put his hand on her thigh and make advances towards her, even though she would deny his advances and push his hand away or just act like kind of uncomfortable about it.
Mhm.
And so while the kids were sitting in the car, Tommy and Michael's cousin came up to the car saying that they had to drive home. So Michael offered to give Martha a ride home, but she said that she didn't want to go with him and that she was going to stay back with Tommy and her two other friends. So eventually, her two friends ended up walking home and leaving Martha alone with Tommy. The two friends even claimed that as they were walking away, they looked behind them and saw that Tommy had pushed Martha to the ground or that Martha was just on the ground.
Oh
But
my
the two
god.
friends just thought that they were messing around and left them alone,
Of
which is
course.
like super weird to me because they knew, like, they claimed that they knew
There
that she
was
was
tension.
uncomfortable with
And that there was
Tommy.
Oh wait,
Yeah,
no, but the tension was with the
with the
guys.
brothers, yeah. But the friends said that they noticed that she would like push his hand away and like not accept any of his advances. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, they're young kids, like they were 15, so I guess they just didn't think anything of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, after finding out all of this information, police decided that they definitely wanted to talk to Tommy Skakel. And when they interviewed him, they asked why he pushed her to the ground and asked if she got hurt. Tommy said that he never pushed her down, and he claimed that right after the two friends left, he went back inside and started working on a research paper for school about Abraham Lincoln, and that he saw Martha leave and assumed that she just walked home by herself. So the police decided to check up with the school, and they found out that there was never a report due on Abraham Lincoln
Oh
or a
no.
report. Yeah. So like as I mentioned before, the when the body was found, um they had evidence of a possible sexual assault, but it was actually found during the autopsy that she was still a virgin.
Oh.
I forgot to mention that earlier, so I wanted to throw that in there.
Wait, so she was or she wasn't sexually assaulted?
She was not, from what they can assume, as far
Okay.
as like intercourse,
Okay. Oh,
possibly
like
because,
full intercourse? Like
yeah,
okay.
because she was
Cuz
still a virgin, but
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. He was 15, so you never know, like, if he
You're not
knew.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so police went to interview the Skakels again because all of the signs were pointing to Tommy. So when they were leaving the house after they interviewed him, they noticed a set of golf clubs in the house with an engraving of Tony Pena, who is a famous golf player. And the golf club found at the scene also had the same engraving of Tony Pena. So the police interviewed everyone in the neighborhood to try to, dot their T's or dot their I's, cross their T's, and they found out that no other neighbors had the same set of golf clubs. So the Skakels claimed that it was a complete coincidence and stated that the kids would always play golf in the yard and leave the clubs laying around everywhere. So they were basically like, anyone could have grabbed that. We don't really pick them up. Like, that was their excuse. So even though the circumstantial evidence was stacking up against Tommy, police were afraid to pursue an investigation because of the status of the Skakel family. So again, everyone in Greenwich pretty much knew that the Skakel family was just treated differently. They were a high status family, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
So at one point, the police questioned a neighbor man whose window looked out towards the pine tree where Martha's body was found. And Dorothy had claimed that he had talked to Martha in the yard a few times and that he had made her feel uncomfortable. But they were able to rule him out. So they basically were like, yeah, he didn't do it.
Yeah.
So they were trying to pursue other suspects. But another fucking weird thing that happened was that during the investigation, instead of the police getting a search warrant, they asked a relative of the Skakel family to search the Skakel's house for evidence.
A relative?
Yeah.
That's sus.
So I'm like, that's fucking insane considering one, it was their family member. Two, they're not investigators. What would they even know what to look for? Like,
Yeah, and wouldn't that well, I mean, it wouldn't be considered a crime scene cuz well, would that be considered a crime scene cuz well, she didn't die in the house. She died outside it.
yeah. I don't think it would be considered a crime scene, but it's definitely like, what if they did find something like the handle to the golf club and then they destroyed it?
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna cover for your family member and be like, oh yeah, I'll go in and search for evidence,
Mhm.
like what the
Yeah.
fuck? That's stupid as hell. And it's like, what would they even know what to look for? Police know what to look for. They know weird signs to see. Like, I don't know. It's just stupid. So at this point, Rushton Skakel, who was the boy's father, he was basically running the investigation. He would dictate what the police could and couldn't see. For example, one time Rushton said that the police could review the boys' school records, but once the police arrived at the school, the principal refused to show them the records, claiming that Rushton had just called them and said not to show them anything. So he was very secretive. He was hiding a lot and he refused to show police a lot of things. And I think basically the way that that works is that because he wasn't officially a suspect and they didn't have like any hard evidence, then it was pretty much optional for them to be interviewed, or they weren't required to give up any certain information, from what I'm thinking about,
Yeah.
because there was just too much circumstantial evidence but not enough real evidence. So
Right.
eventually police were tipped off about a man named Ken Littleton, who was a teacher and a coach. Rushton had hired Ken to be a live-in babysitter for when Rushton was away on business. So, coincidentally, Ken's first night on the job just so happened to be the night of October 30th, 1975. Ken
Mm.
stayed with the Skakel family for several weeks while Rushton was gone, and he was drinking heavily. Police approached him at a school sports game, and he immediately became extremely defensive, claiming that he wasn't going to help them build a case against Tommy. This was odd to police because when they were talking to Ken, they never mentioned Tommy or asked him about Tommy at all. So they were immediately like, okay, why is he suddenly so defensive over Tommy? Like, yeah, we've been talking to him, but we didn't mention him at all in this interview or conversation.
Yeah.
So,
Sus.
yeah, very sus. So, almost a year after Martha's death, Ken took a polygraph test relating to Martha's murder and he failed. So, from that point on, the two prime suspects were Ken Littleton and Tommy Skakel. But unfortunately, because there was no hard evidence to actually link them to the murder, the case eventually went cold for about 15 years.
Oh my god, that's a long time.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
sad. So Martha's family never gave up hope, but they did end up moving away from their home. And in 1988, Martha's father passed away from a heart attack without knowing who killed his daughter. And
Oh, that's so sad.
yeah, and the family says that they believe that his heart attack was caused by all of the stress about all of it and everything.
That's so sad.
It's really sad. I can't even imagine just like not knowing the answers and just passing away, but
Yeah.
so in 1991, William Kennedy Smith was accused of rape in Palm Beach, Florida. And William is said to be one of the cousins that was at the Skakel family's home the night of Martha's murder. So William was found to be innocent in the rape case, but because of this rape case, it brought Martha's case back to the public eye because this family is like they have like a little bit of fame, you know what I mean? So when something happens, it's like, "Oh my god, this is happening again in the family." So basically, that brought the Martha's case back to the public eye, and at this point, technology had advanced, and Rushton was extremely aggravated that the case was reopened, and he did not want it to be reopened. So what he did was he hired his own private investigator from Sutton Associates. And basically, people looked at it as, oh, he's just trying to help, but he was actually hired the investigator to prove that his sons were innocent. So he didn't give a shit about Martha's case. Like he didn't want
Mm.
it to be solved. He didn't care who did it. He just wanted to prove that his sons didn't do it, basically.
Yeah.
So at the time, the police decided to re interview Tommy and Michael Skakel and found that their stories had changed drastically. So Tommy originally told the police that he left Martha alone in the driveway at around 9:30 p.m. and he went inside to work on his report. In his new interview, Tommy said that he went inside for a little while, then he went back outside and he had sex with Martha.
Ew.
But like we mentioned
Wait.
before,
Yeah.
Martha's autopsy revealed that she was still a virgin. So when police told Tommy this, his story changed again, and he claimed, well, we didn't fully have sex, but we did everything else instead.
Ew.
So police started to look more into Michael Skakel as well because at the time they didn't really interview him or look at him as a suspect because his original story was that he dropped his cousins off at their house, came home at 11:30 and went to bed. So they pretty much just took that for face value and was like, "Oh, well, he took his cousins home, went to bed, there's nothing there." And they just zeroed in on Tommy.
Mm.
Well, Michael's new story was that he came home, he didn't go to bed when he said he did. He claimed that he walked around the neighborhood a few times and eventually ended up walking to Martha's house and climbed a tree next to Martha's window, threw a couple rocks at it, said her name a few times, and masturbated in the tree.
Ew. Ew. Gross.
He then says that he climbed down the tree and went home.
Fucking
So
liar.
at this time, a lot of people started speculating that the boys changed their story because they knew now technology had advanced and that their DNA would be at the crime scene, and they started to make up excuses for reasons why it would be there. So that was a whirlwind to me. But Dominic Dunn, who is an investigative journalist, was able to turn investigators' heads as well. He convinced Martha's mother, Dorothy, to let him write a novel about Martha's murder titled A Season in Purgatory, and the novel was released in 1993. So the public and the media went crazy once again for Martha's story. In 2000, Dominic claimed that while he was on a book tour in Colorado in 1993, that a forensic pathologist from Greenwich approached him and gave him a copy of Martha's autopsy photos. He claimed that the police had it all wrong and that it wasn't Tommy who killed Martha, but that he didn't know who it was, so he didn't say. Then, in 1996, Mark Furman, who was a retired detective, wrote another book about Martha's murder, claiming that he had it all figured out. And according to his book, Martha Moxley was actually murdered by Michael Skakel, not Tommy. So basically, what he says is that he believes that Michael killed Martha in a fit of jealous rage. So because she didn't want anything to do with him and he thought that she liked his brother more, he was also drunk apparently that night. And so he thinks that he killed Martha in a jealous like fit of rage, and pretty much that just blamed it on Tommy. Well, he didn't really like blame it on him, but that the
Yeah.
signs pointed more towards Tommy, and that Michael pretty much just skated free for like 15 years because
Oh my
no one was looking
gosh.
at him, right? So finally, in January of 2000, an arrest warrant was issued, but the arrest warrant was not for Tommy Skakel, it was for Michael Skakel, who is now 40 years old. But at the time of Martha's murder, he was only 15. So in June of 2002, Michael, well, first they tried to try him as a juvenile because he was a juvenile at the time of the crime, but instead they decided to try him as an adult because he was now 40 years old.
Oh yeah.
So in June of 2002, Michael went to trial. He claimed he was innocent the entire time, and the jury deliberated for 3 days, but ultimately found him guilty of murdering Martha, and he was sent to 20 years to life in prison.
Why do
So,
they give like a certain amount of years to life? Like, shouldn't it just be life? If you take a life, you spend a life.
I think it's because of that's when they have a chance for parole.
But they shouldn't.
No,
Well,
they shouldn't.
I guess it just depends on the circumstances. But this person is like murdered, like you murdered them. So yeah.
Yeah, and you already got to spend all this time, but just wait because you're going to be
Exactly.
pissed.
Oh,
So,
oh no. God.
so in 2013, after Michael had been in prison for 11 years, the Supreme Court granted him a new trial.
Ew.
They basically, his new lawyer was basically saying that his lawyer at the time was ineffective and that he should have been tried as a juvenile, which doesn't make sense to me, but I don't know. Anyways, Michael gets out on bail until 2016 and he was reconvicted. So, because Michael is from a
Wait,
very
he got
wealthy
out. I'm
family.
sorry. Say it again. Sorry, he got out
Yeah.
on bail.
Yeah. It was
Wait,
like
huh?
$1.2 million bail.
What the fuck? Who
And
the
he was out from
fuck?
2013 to
Who
2016.
got him out?
His lawyers. So,
Ew.
but wait, there's more.
Great.
So, because, Michael, he comes from a rich, wealthy family, so his lawyers went back to court in 2018 and the Supreme Court vacated Skakel's conviction and ordered a new trial. So, the court ruled again that Michael's lawyers once again had rendered ineffective assistance, and that was because they're claiming that the lawyer failed to contact an alibi witness whose name had previously been provided by Skakel, and that as a result, Skakel was deprived of a fair trial. So, state prosecutors in Stanford still have the power to call for a new trial against Skakel, but as of now, 2020, no determination has been made by the state's attorney office as of yet. So, Michael Skakel is still free.
I cannot believe that.
Yep. It's so fucked up, dude.
What? Oh my god, where was this at again?
This was in Greenwich, Connecticut.
Connecticut. Well, fuck you, Connecticut. You guys suck.
Yeah, so basically from the get-go, the entire crime scene was fucked. I mean, the police did not know what they were doing. They did not know how to
No.
handle a murder. They,
Hey, you person, go check their house for us.
yeah, pretty much.
Like,
They
what?
did not get an arrest warrant. I feel like they were just scared to pursue Tommy and Michael because of the family's fame and wealth. And
Stupid.
they kind of just drug their
Stupid.
feet, and then they had no hard evidence. Like the handle to the golf club was never found.
Oh.
So, I mean, they had no fingerprints, no DNA, they had nothing. As far as I know, from what I researched, they didn't have the
Yeah.
actual hard evidence to convict these guys. So it was all circumstantial. And that's what makes it tricky about going to court when you don't have foolproof evidence,
Yeah.
because the person, even if they did it, they can still get away with it because you can't it's really fucking hard to
Yeah.
retry somebody.
Oh, yeah.
Like without new evidence or without new witnesses coming forward or new DNA, it's really fucking hard to retry somebody and sometimes you can't. So,
Yeah.
it's depressing as hell. I mean, it's so sad. I honestly believe that they all three had something to do with it. That Ken, the babysitter, Tommy, and Michael all had something to do with it.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
mean,
it would make sense.
or maybe like Michael did it and then he came home and he was all bloody and then Ken saw him and found out and realized that he was drunk and then Ken was also drinking heavily, so he just swept it under the rug and was just like, clean yourself off, this never happened, because
Oh
Ken
my
failed the polygraph,
god.
like not saying they're 100% accurate, but
Right.
seems sus, seems
Oh,
very sus.
totally. Yeah.
So yeah, Martha Moxley, rest her soul. I hope that she's okay wherever she's at. It's very
No
fucking sad.
justice for her yet.
Yeah.
Or probably won't even ever happen.
Yeah,
That's so
unfortunately. I
sad.
mean, he got out in 2018, and so far, nothing new has happened. He's just
Yeah.
walking the streets, a free man.
So, if he is still in Connecticut, Connecticut people, please be careful.
Yeah, I don't know where he lives currently, but
Just be careful in general, wherever the fuck you are, wherever you're listening, please be careful. Carry
yeah,
mace with you,
always
just
be
have
aware of your
something.
surroundings.
Yes. Also, I know I've read a whole lot about like sex trafficking and like people are like going underneath your car and like to like slash your ankles and shit. So like when you're
Oh,
walking to your car from somewhere, usually I'd assume it's usually at night, but you maybe want to do this during the day too. Before you get close to your car, just take a peek underneath, and then if it's safe, then get to your car. If it's not safe, then you better run and
yeah,
call whoever you need to call to save your ass. So,
definitely. I always check my back seat and I
yeah,
always
me
check under my car. And then the
too.
second that I get in my car, I always lock the door like immediately.
Yes,
um,
same.
yeah. I've also heard that that happens when you're like pumping gas, that someone will like sneak around your car and get in the back seat. So I always lock my
Ew!
door
Oh my
while I'm pumping
gosh.
gas.
Wow, thanks for sharing that because I'm gonna do that now.
Dude, I'm super paranoid. I'm probably one of the most paranoid people. And it's weird because I'm almost 6 feet tall and I'm like a big girl. Like, I don't think someone would try to kidnap me, but you never know. Like, thankfully, I'm not small and like pick upable, but
Totally forgot about that. How tall are you?
I'm 5'9".
Oh,
Yeah, I'm tall. I know when we actually meet in person, you're gonna be like, well, I guess we met
well,
before, but
yeah, we
briefly,
did. I
briefly.
I do remember you being taller, but
Yeah, but yeah, I'm one of the most paranoid people. I'm one of the most paranoid people you could ever meet. Like I even filled out an if I go missing folder.
wait, what is that?
So basically it's a folder where so I first heard about it on Crime Junkie and they have like a PDF that you can download and print out. But basically it has all of your information because so there's this one case where a girl, she was leaving for work and she just never came home and her husband like called the police and was like, she's missing, where is she? And the police like thought that he killed her and he like actually, I believe he like actually got arrested. And after like a week and a half, someone found her car in a ditch and she was still alive. She wrecked her car in a ditch
Oh my
and she was
god.
trapped from the seatbelt and like the car had her like pinned and she
Oh,
was trapped. So the police were like, oh shit, like he didn't do anything. She just literally fucking was in a car wreck and they like she lived.
yeah.
But the reason why they didn't find her for so long is because they could not get access to her phone records. And the second that they did, they were able to ping it. And so then they were able to find her. They were able to ping like the last location that it went off at.
Yeah.
And so they were able to find her, but they were unable to get access to those records because it becomes very hard sometimes for family members to get access to last locations to your bank records. Sometimes they'll make you wait for 48 hours before, because you're a grown up, like you can just leave if you want.
Right.
So sometimes they'll wait and make sure that you're actually missing. And yeah, so basically I filled out one of those where it has all of my like frequent locations, all of my passwords to everything, all of my information. I even got like my fingerprints on there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Send me
It's
that link.
yeah, I want to send it to you. And everybody else, you should fill one out and leave it to one person that you trust. I mean, hopefully that person isn't the one that's going to kill you, but
Oh my god, yeah, that's scary.
right.
Oh shit.
Yeah, because like also it becomes like when you live in a big city, there's different police jurisdictions. So
Mm-hmm.
like in Utah, I used to work in Sandy, but I live in West Valley. So if I went missing between the time I left my house for work and went to, got to my work, it would depend on which jurisdiction I was last seen in by like where they would report me missing. So if I was last seen in Sandy and they reported me missing in West Valley, the West Valley police would probably not be able to do anything. So when you have your frequent locations on there, then you can also kind of figure out, where you could have been and what jurisdiction that you need to call. It's pretty nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll send that to you.
So my story is it's called, well, okay, the guy from the story is called the Candy Man, also known as the man that ruined Halloween, I think is what it's called. Um so this is the true story that everyone is terrified of. And all the parents are terrified of. So on Halloween night of 1974, in Deer Park, Texas, kids were going door to door asking for a trick or a treat. Ronald Clark O'Brien and his kids, 8-year-old Timothy and 5-year-old Elizabeth, as well as their neighbor Jim Bates and his son, came across a house that was dark. No front porch light was on, but the kids still knocked on the door anyway. No one answered, so the kids and Jim ran off to the next house. Ronald was left behind, all by himself. So after a while of trick-or-treating, Timothy and Elizabeth's father, Ronald, caught up with them with a handful of 21-inch pixie sticks. He said that someone in the house ended up answering the door, that house that was like dark and empty or whatever.
Yeah.
That someone ended up answering the door after they left, and he gave the kids each a pixie stick along with another 10-year-old boy and Jim's other child. So everyone went back home, and before bed, little 8-year-old Timothy was allowed one treat from his candy bag. He picked the pixie stick, but the powdered sugar was stuck in the straw, and it wasn't until his dad was able to help him loosen it up, then he could have it. But Timothy complained that it tasted bitter, and so Ronald got him a glass of Kool-Aid to get rid of the taste. Ronald said, quote, 30 seconds after I left Tim's room, I heard him cry to me, Daddy, Daddy, my stomach hurts. He was in the bathroom convulsing, vomiting, and gasping, and then suddenly he went limp.
Oh no.
They rushed him to the hospital, but Timothy had passed away in the car on the way there.
Oh my god, that's so sad.
So, former Harris County prosecutor Mike Hinton says he got a call from the Pasadena Police Department, and they told him an 8-year-old boy has died and was rushed to the hospital, but he had already passed. During the investigation, he told the situation to the chief medical examiner, Joseph A. Oh God, I cannot pronounce his last name, so I'm just gonna say J for whatever his last name is.
How is it spelled?
It's JACHIMCZYK.
Oh wow, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, halfway. Nope. No.
Giacomo. Well, I know the C. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so anyways, Mike Hinton, the prosecutor, told the medical examiner and asked him what the boy's breath smelled like, and the medical examiner said that he smelled almonds coming from his mouth, and he confirmed that it was cyanide, because I guess like the smell of almonds is how cyanide smells.
Dang.
So an autopsy was performed, and a pathologist said Timothy had consumed enough cyanide to kill 2 or 3 grown men or people, whatever. Tests later found out that the top 2 inches of the pixie stick had been packed with poison. Police were able to recover the remaining pixie sticks from the other children that were given them, and luckily no one else had eaten any of it. And it was revealed that the staples were used to seal the pixie sticks after they were tampered with. And apparently some other kid was trying to open his up, but he couldn't get the staples, like he couldn't open up the staples, so he didn't end up eating it, but he was like found with the pixie stick in his bed, but he never ate it. So he,
Damn.
yeah, he was close to death right there. Um, so the police took Ronald to the neighborhood where the house he picked up the pixie sticks was, but he said he couldn't find the house. And he said he didn't even see the person's face that gave it to him because he was, he was scared and whatever. So he said that someone had just emerged from the doorway and handed him candy. But investigators started to become suspicious because that doesn't sound right. And after a few days, they took him back, and Ronald took them to the house. Um, the man who lived there wasn't home, so the officers went to his work and arrested him. And at this point, they thought the mystery was over, case was closed. But it wasn't. The man that they arrested ended up having an airtight alibi. He was working the night of Halloween, and his boss and his coworkers can all confirm it. His wife and his daughter were home, but they turned off the lights early after running out of candy. So that's why the lights were off. The house looked dark because they didn't have any more candy, which is normal. That's the usual thing for people to do when they don't have any more candy. They turn off the lights so nobody can come to the house and know that there's no candy there.
Yeah. Yeah, we always
Um,
went to only the houses that had porch lights on.
yes. So it was discovered that Ronald had written a song about his son Timothy and Jesus joining God in heaven. Ronald was also, I think he was in the church choir or something like that. Like he was something in the church. But yeah, he wrote a song about him and Jesus going to heaven or whatever. And then he also had recently taken out life insurance policies on both of his children, which was 10 grand per child in January of that year, and then 20 grand on each child in September. I wanted to mention that Ronald O'Brien had money problems. He was super in debt. He kept getting fired from his jobs. He wasn't making enough money to support his family. Like, they were barely getting by. And his car was also about to be repossessed.
Damn.
So his crime was to save his money problems. He decided it would be a good idea to kill his own child so he would be out of debt, pretty much.
Jesus. That's so fucking sad.
Yeah, I really don't understand how parents are like, oh yeah, let's just kill my kid for money and not have any consequences. Like, I'm gonna live a fantastic life with all this life insurance money from my dead child. Like,
Literally.
I
And how
do
they
not
just expect that
understand.
they're not gonna, like, get caught or something.
Yeah,
It reminds me of that one case. I don't remember what it's called. I just remember the 911 call where she's like, I just killed or I just murdered one of my kids and the other one's still alive. You better get here before it dies. And it's just like,
what? That's
yeah,
real?
yeah, it's a
Oh my
911
god.
call and the operator's just like,
Oh
okay,
fuck.
what's your address? Like, what the fuck? And she just sounds so like heartless, just like,
Oh my god, that's so scary. Ew, I need to look for that.
yeah.
Um okay, so anyways, investigators knew that Ronald was over $100,000 in debt, and when they found out that he called his insurers to ask about the payout the morning after his son's death, it was clear that he was digging himself deeper within the case. Um so during the investigation, the O'Brien's house was searched and a pair of scissors with plastic residue attached, which was similar to what was found on the cyanide laced pixie sticks, was found. Ronald was then arrested. It turns out that he was going to a community college, and in class, he would ask his professor questions like, is cyanide or another type of poison more lethal? Or like he'd just be like, what is more lethal, cyanide or another type of poison? And then someone from a chemical company in Houston told investigators that Ronald went in to buy cyanide but left after being told the smallest amount he could buy was 5 pounds. I also did read that he called a bunch of different chemical companies asking how much, like jokingly, how much it would take to kill someone with cyanide. Um, so yeah, everything he was doing was like hella sus. But it was said that the man from the store couldn't identify Ronald, but he remembered he was wearing a beige or blue smock like a doctor, and Ronald was actually an optician. So what that man at the store saw was Ronald in his work uniform. He maintained his innocence, though, and apparently he even liked all of the attention that he was getting during his trial. Ronald entered a not
Disgusting.
guilty plea with his defense blaming the laced pixie stick on an untraceable boogeyman. Um, a ton of people testified against him, and he became known as the Candyman. On June 3rd, 1975, he was charged with capital murder and 4 counts of attempted murder. And an hour later, it was decided that Ronald O'Brien would be executed by electric chair. So on March 31st, 1984, which is like 9 years later after, or yeah, like 9 years later after his son died, at age 39, he was put to death at the Texas State Penitentiary. Oh my god, I can never say this word. Penitentiary in Huntsville for killing his 8-year-old son and attempting to kill 4 other children. But he died by lethal injection since by this time the U.S. Supreme Court had ruled the electric chair a cruel and unusual punishment. So he didn't get the electric chair, but he did get a lethal injection. Ronald O'Brien's last words were, "What is about to transpire in a few moments is wrong. I would forgive all who have taken part in any way in my death." And at 12:48 a.m., Ronald was pronounced dead.
Damn.
Yep.
What was this man's last meal? It should have been a fucking cyanide pixie stick.
Oh my god, you're right. Wow, that's how they should have killed him. Oh my gosh.
Honestly.
What
It's
the
like,
fuck?
okay, you really expect us to fucking believe that you were just randomly inquiring about cyanide and then your son died from cyanide poisoning?
Yeah,
Like,
he's
you're
an idiot.
certified dumbass.
Yeah, for real. Um, and I also just wanted to let everybody know that I know, like, when I was a kid, this was like something that was scary. Like, we'd always have to check our candy, before eating to look for any holes or whatever. Um, but I just wanted to make it known that ever since this case, there has not been a single case where a child actually died from eating contaminated Halloween candy. The only other incident that did happen was, I don't know when, but someone put needles in I don't remember what kind of candy, but in a candy, and someone got poked from it, but
Oh
they
no.
didn't like severely injure themselves or anything. But yeah,
That
no
could have been
one
an
has.
accident too. Like, sometimes people put like little notes or stickers or something on candy. Maybe they were stupid and used a needle. I don't know.
No, I think someone was putting needles in candy for sure, like just to be
Damn.
fucking assholes. But yeah, just not everyone. I don't know. I would still check your candy, look for little holes or whatever. But just be careful. And if you get any pixie sticks with staples on it or anything with staples on it, don't eat it. Just throw it out.
Honestly.
If you really like that candy, just go buy it somewhere else. Like, better safe than sorry. But it sucks because it was this kid's own father that did it. So yeah, happy Halloween, you guys.
Yeah, happy Halloween, two depressing stories. But that's what
um
you're here for.
yeah,
True
that is what you're.
crime and scary shit.
Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. And if you are listening on Halloween, then we hope that you are staying safe, that whatever your plans you have tonight or you had, or yeah, whatever you have tonight, that you are safe and um, don't go killing people. Okay?
And yeah, don't go killing people. If you have any spooky encounters, you know who to reach out to. Us, of
Yeah,
course.
if you're doing any sort of spooky Ouija board session on Halloween night at midnight or freaking 3 a.m., email that experience to us. Any scary Halloween stories that you got going on, yeah, email that to us, taleoftwodeadgirls@gmail.com, and we will be sure to read it in one of our Morbid Mini episodes. With that, we're going to get out of here, and again, happy
Happy Halloween!
Halloween!
And
And
we
we
will
will
meet
meet
you
you
6
6
feet
feet
under.
under.